I was going to ask a question. You know, sometimes we say athletes they go quite a little bit flat, just one day before the competition. I think it's maybe because athletes they don't give the body enough to recover, and then when they come to the near to compete, or they don't eat enough loaded carbohydrates or energy drinks, or to let body to recover better, and then they can have to feel on next day they recover better and they can go to compete. What I want to ask, were you out of you guys you had done a coaching before, what do you think is better for athletes to do to eat just before the competition, so body can recover quickly so they can help to compete better?
Good question. I hope you're all ready for another hour presentation. No, Jane. I think, as with nutrition, it's a massive topic. For me, yep. After training, getting something in quickly is always going to help. If you're not looking to do any kind of like glucose control or glucose management or anything like that, it's just about recovery. If it's about recovery, then straight away after training, for me, 30 to 60 minutes, getting any carbs and your protein is always going to help. Most of the athletes I work with will have some sort of snack at the track or say at the training venue as they're leaving, and then they'll be going home to dinner or lunch, depending on when that is. I think, and it's a good point to make, we'll get the other guys' views as well. I think sometimes mistakes athletes make is they get that post-training snack right, then they get say if it's the dinner right, but then if they're racing at 8 o'clock, say on Saturday, we've got some later races, it might be 6 o'clock actually tomorrow, then they're a bit nervous, so they don't actually eat a breakfast, and then they might not eat a good lunch, and then they're it's already always a bit too late, and now I'm going to race and I haven't had too much there. I think that's where sometimes the problems can come from. If the kind of the 5 days before the race, you've had some good nutrition, you should be stocked up, ready to go. But that's, to me, normally the issues when nerves plays into it, and then sometimes they don't like to eat certain things. So there's no perfect what to eat beforehand. I've seen people eat a Domino's pizza 2 hours before at a league match and then go and race a PB. We didn't learn from that and say, right, here you go, every single race. We definitely said no to that one in future. But so I think we keep saying about it being individual. But I think some athletes can stomach certain foods and individuals where other athletes can't. So that might be where, again, you might want to experiment there a little bit.
Okay. I think the main thing for me, I'm still doing my running, and for so many years I learned about nutrition, which about when I started, I didn't learn about nutrition. I just eat my normal food. Then for so many years, I come to understand how it's important to have a nutrition. And then also, I think all of them come from a coach as well to help them, because the athletes, especially young athletes, they don't know what to eat, And I think in itself, if you can guide them and you show, well, you need to understand first what they like to eat. And then from there, you can say, look, I think this one can help you recovering. This can help you, especially like a protein, carbohydrate. Immediately when you finish training, you need a carbohydrates to help your body to recover quickly. Protein can come after, because protein is just to repair your muscles, and I think that even coaches, they can try to help young athletes to direct, like when they going up straight away, they will know what to do, They don't need a coach there, part of during when they want to eat something or you want to take something, to balance the diet and then also to help them. I think in itself is more important, because for so many years I used to get things wrong, but the more I compete and more I keep doing more research to understand my own body as well, what I need after my training, how quick can I recover before I go to do another 10 miles, or next day, or go to the track and do speed work, 400 meter times 20 or times 10, it depends, So I think the coaches as well, they should, I'm from Kenya regional, and in Kenya, we train different from people from UK or from people from European country because our diet is so simple, It's just maize meal and the veggie and the spinach. I don't know, maybe you might know it's something called ungali and the sukuma wiki as your top coach. That's our diet, and it's especially mainly is a higher carbohydrates. It's 100% carbohydrate. You don't have no many things be added in. And I love it. I still eat it even now, even though I'm in the UK. I live here for 30 years. But I love it, my own food, because I think for so many years it helped me to perform well and also to recover quickly. So if I eat that one now, I don't need to eat again. I can stay 5 hours without to eat any other food. But when I go next day, I feel stronger to do again same things I done yesterday. So I think in myself, coaches, they can help young athletes as well to find what they like, what they eat, and then they help from there which nutrition they need. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make that. Unfortunately, we are in a sport where you are not just a running coach. You are going to be a sports psychologist, a nutritionist, biomechanist, you name it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously you can have a support team and work with a dietitian or nutritionist. That would be amazing. There are some good webinars on the Athletics Hub to do on nutrition, especially kind of topical things about like REDs and things that are coming out more openly now as well. So I would head to the Athletics Hub and have a look on the search bar. You can type in like nutrition, diet, and there's a few good webinars on there to do as well. But no, really good point. Great question.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We will finish off with Bree. Did you have a question?
One quick question, yes, and it's just anybody who has input. So I have an athlete, she's in a racing cycle at the minute. So last weekend was 5K, next weekend is 3K. This week we kicked into regular training, like we just went back into Tuesday, Thursday sessions. But because she's racing like a number of, it's going to be a number of weeks like this with 2 weeks between each race, is that recommendable, or should we just go with her body and her fatigue and just kind of, she's a senior, so she can communicate with me her tiredness levels, or what would be, because obviously the summer is full of racing, and as we've said, you don't want to be in taper mode all the time, because I think when you're used to miles, you're used to miles. Anybody?
Yeah, great question. Does someone want to jump in first?
So I missed a little bit. What you say about 5K and the 3K? And
then another 5K the following 2 weeks.
She keep they are competing, those Ks?
Yes, yeah.
All right, well, it's people that can compete every week if they want to, because I used to do that myself. But I think what those people they need, wherever doing that competition, they need a lot of recovering time, and then also nutrition, you have to be spot on. Example, if you had done a lot of mileage for the beginning of the season, and then you can have a 5 race to compete every week, but you couldn't do your because you're gonna do I don't know about what other people they think, but for me personal, if you're gonna do five competition in 5 weeks, every week you're doing one, then you're gonna have to lower a little bit mileage, do short runs, but trying to get that speed to your legs, so you to maintain have speed in your legs. And then also more recovering as well, because our body take about 48 hours to recover completely, you know what I mean? So, but in those times, you need to keep feeding your body, give it good nutrition, get good food, which is, and that one should help you to take it to another level, That's from my experience, to be honest with you. So, because I'm still running, I'm 51, I'm still running, I'm doing quite well, so it's not bad. And I've been running for 30 years, So
good. I'd like to hear it.
Quickly, yeah.
That's a great point. I think Kevin, sorry, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I know a couple of the guys that you used to run with years ago, and that recovery is about a perspective, because I had a full-time job at the time, and the guys that are training with, they ran 3 times a day, probably doing about 200 miles a week, but slept. They went out first thing in the morning, slept till lunchtime, slept till their session in the afternoon, as I say, ate meals of ugali, chicken, honey, loads and loads of sugar, but only slept and ran and just takes. He's laughing there. And that was the perspective. But for me, recovery, I had to then go to work after my sessions, and it was a really battered lifestyle. So you've got to get that balance between everything, and only then can you start putting the races in, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, both of you there have made great points. I think it's one, I think it was John that mentioned it earlier about, out of these races, is there a key race? So is actually the key race in 4 weeks' time? So the athlete understands that the race is in 4 weeks' time. If they're in this racing block where they're all key. So as an example, we're coming up to sort of under 20, under 23 champs, British champs, they're all kind of back to back. If they then go to, say, Europeans, if they're that standard, there's no time almost. Then I think for me, it's almost you're in that maintenance kind of phase where the races, you'll get a physiological improvement from them, or hopefully, because they're going to run PBs, obviously, aren't they? So they'll get the physiological improvement from that. So then in the training, for me, it's more about all, as we've discussed earlier, that's kind of, we need to stimulate you, but let's not go for, let's just say, for example, you've done 5 by a K is the most you've done all year. You obviously then don't want to go to say, right, let's try 6 by a K now, 4 days before a big race. I think that maintenance phase is great, and then use the races and this is what I say to athletes sometimes, is the training session now is not that important. It's maintenance. So if you're tired, we can miss it and go to bed, like Kevin says, and sleep, because that's where you're going to recover from. But this weekend, so was it the 3K, next weekend or Wednesday, was it for the next 3K, use that as where you're going to push yourself harder than you ever have done to get a physiological response out of it. That's the way I kind of, and it is difficult sometimes depending on the experience of the athlete, but that's the kind of way I word that a little bit for them.